Welcome everybody. So glad that you have joined us for the Management Committee meeting today on July 23rd. We have a quorum, so let's get started with our agenda. We will not be reading out loud our Dakota Land and People, Water and People Acknowledgement, but just to know that it is on our agenda, and I hope everyone takes a moment to just look at that and kind of ponder it and respect it. With that, we'll move on to the agenda. Are there any changes, any additions, anything that we want to do differently? Okay, then seeing none, we're going to move on and the agenda is approved. We also have our draft Special Management Committee meeting minutes from July 9th. We've all had a chance to read those in advance. Are there any changes or edits? Anything wants to be amended? All right, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the Special Management Committee draft minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Lilligren, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Cedarburg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. On our non-consent business portion of the agenda, we have 4 items, and we will start with 2025-174. This is a same week item. It's council property insurance renewal, and I'll turn it over to Phil for a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, committee members. Phil Walljasper, the Deputy Regional Administrator. This business item is seeking authorization to bind coverage of the council's property insurance effective August 1st of this year to August 1st of next year, in an amount not to exceed $4.67 million. So this insurance provides coverage for damage to council property all across the divisions. The buildings, also the business property, the contents within those buildings. Another key component with this is that it provides coverage for expenses that we would incur to continue operations in the event of a covered loss. And I say that because at the Met Council, with the operations that we have, we don't have the luxury of telling the region, don't flush the toilet. We still have to treat the wastewater if we have damage to some part of our operation. That will involve some expense to haul it to another treatment plant. So we have coverage for that. Similarly, on Metro Transit, if we have an issue with one of our transit lines or light rail lines, we incur expense to either operate a bus bridge or provide some other alternative mode of transportation for the region, which we need to do. This policy will step up and provide that coverage if there is a loss that is covered in the policy. So with that, having said that, we rely heavily on our property carrier, FM Global, to come out and inspect our property, to offer recommendations from an engineering standpoint about what we need to do to prevent the loss from happening in the first place. We have a very strong partnership with them. This will be the 3rd year with them. 4 years prior to that, we were with AXA XL, but for 18 years prior to that, we were with FM Global. And what we found as we came back to them, they're providing very competitive quotes for the rates. And very reasonable coverage, the appropriate coverage that we need to maintain our operations in the event of a loss. So a very strong partnership. So what we do when we market the program is we work with our broker to take a look at their quote, take a look at the quote from FM Global to see how that rate compares with the industry. I will say we use our broker heavily on that because it's a unique operation. We have wastewater treatment and we have Metro Transit. A lot of times you don't see those two under one program, so we work very closely with our broker to get that kind of benchmarking. And that came back and showed we have a very competitive rate, great coverage. It provides us what we need to continue the operations with the understanding that should something occur, we have the protection and the backstop of this should we have a loss. But the goal is not to have the loss. We can't afford to be down. So the quote came in very competitive this year again, and again, Madam Chair, committee members, the proposed action is seeking authorization to renew or bind our coverage with FM Global or property insurance effective August 1st of 2025 to August 1st of 2026, an amount not to exceed $4.67 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Phil. Are there any questions? Councilmember
Yeah,
Lilligren.
thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks. I'm very supportive of this. Thanks for the report and for the work. And is it always just an annual binding or annual renewal?
Chair Johnson, Councilmember Lilligren, not always. It typically is.
Okay.
When we switched 5-6 years ago to AXA XL, we were able to lock in on a 3-year rate guarantee.
Okay.
That typically doesn't happen. When you approach that, a lot of things change with the market, so losses that may occur out, catastrophic losses with wildfires or hurricanes, that impacts the overall market. So the markets could go up or they could go down. So you really are kind of taking a somewhat of a gamble on if you want to proceed with a 3-year rate guarantee. It just needs to make sense based on the actual quote that you get.
Thank you, thank you.
Great question, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, then seeing none, we do have the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorizes to bind coverage of its authorizes our regional administrator bind coverage of its property insurance effective 8/1/2025 through 8/1/2026 in an amount not to exceed $4.67 million. Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved by Osmond, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, yes,
Councilmember Jenkins.
thank you, Councilmember Jenkins. I wanted to call you Mark, but that would have been super inappropriate, so then I got stuck. Thank you for being patient with me. Any further discussion? And thank you for your first motion, I'll make your second. Any other discussion? The only thing I'll add again is thanks to you, Phil, for your extensive knowledge in all of this, and again, we're not just your average everyday insuree, so all the things that you have to put together really matter, and if you read through the whole report, again, very extensive work on this, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that passes unanimously, so thank you very much. Let's move on to our next item, which is 2025-164. It is Building Control Specialist, and Greg Caslow, Manager of Central Services, is with us today. Thanks for being with us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Greg Caslow, Manager of Central Services for the Regional Administration's Real Estate Division. This afternoon, we have before you item number 2025-164, Building Control Specialist Contract 24P204 for your consideration. A little background on the scope of this contract. With the approval of this building control specialist, will assist the Robert Street facilities staff in meeting our goals around the building controls improvements, including cybersecurity, developing a non-proprietary open protocol-based system, supporting our current Niagara 4 supervisor, implementing EZIOs over the Sedona framework, replacing of several legacy proprietary controllers that are end of life, installed in 2006 and no longer supported, actuator replacements, controls commissioning, recommissioning of systems integrations as the council works to update their building control systems here at 390 Robert Street. Through these improvements, the council will achieve better security, efficiency, and reliability of their building control systems. These control systems can include heating, ventilation, AC controls, lighting, generators, elevators, access security, occupancy devices, utility monitoring, energy use reporting, and indoor air quality. A few of the benefits that can be realized by this authorization are lower operating cost of our mechanical systems, non-proprietary open system that will allow us to be more competitive when this comes to be bid a second time around, because it offers more competition to the open market, where now we're pretty limited. Increased operating efficiency leading to lower energy consumption, lowering our carbon footprint, and improving our impact on the communities we serve. Also underneath the contract, the building control specialists will be made available to other council divisions if needed on a backup basis. The council issued a request for proposal for these services. Through that process of proposals received by our evaluation panel, reached a consensus that the proposal submitted by Eric Hansen Consulting provided the best value for the council and has recommended us to move forward to award that. Proposed action, Met Council authorizes the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P204 with Eric Hansen Consulting for the term of 3 years to provide consulting services for building control systems, on-site support of building control systems, building control interfaces, systems, integrations, and support of devices for the council, an amount not to exceed $729,100. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions? All right, then seeing none, we do have the proposed action that Greg just read before us, that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 24P204 with Eric Hansen Consulting for a term of 3 years to provide consulting services for building control systems, on-site support of building control systems, building control interfaces, system integrations, and support of devices for the council in an amount not to exceed $729,100. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Osmond, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Cedarburg, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you for coming forward, really excited to see this, especially when you think about some of the systems going back to 2006. That was a really, really, really long time ago, so, especially as it relates to security, so thanks for your hard work and all the team that have been working on this.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and very much committee members.
Yes, thank you. All right, we have another item then before us, 2025-176, and that's long-term disability insurance. And we've got Michelle Murray, Senior Manager of Benefits with us, so thank you for being with us, we appreciate it, and I'll turn it over to you.
Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Michelle Murray, Senior Manager of Benefits, and welcome new committee members. Madam Chair and committee members, I am here to present business item 176 for long-term disability insurance contract 25P013. This project solicitation is the result of the expiration of our current contract. Approximately 2,000 current employees are eligible for long-term disability insurance, and eligibility is based on benefits negotiated in collective bargaining agreements. Services include income replacement for qualified disabilities, claims administration, and customer service. Insurance is a fully insured product provided by the insurance companies. Through clarifications and best and final offers, the following enhanced services were negotiated effective January 1, 2026. Price reduction of approximately 30%, along with rate caps for the next 5 years. Enhanced online functionality with increased transparency for enhanced access to reporting. Therefore, we are asking that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P013 with a 5-year term with MetLife to provide long-term disability insurance for all eligible council employees in an amount not to exceed $2,298,256. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilmember Lilligren.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And thanks, Ms. Murray. And I didn't see this number when I was doing my committee prep, but one of the numbers you just said was, and maybe I missed it, but it was something like, was it premiums 30%, there was in this new agreement, and that just seems like quite a reduction. So just knowing what's going on in the insurance world, I'm just wondering why such a significant reduction in the this contract?
Madam Chair and committee members, that's a great question. Our experience in our long-term disability product has been very favorable, which has led to the decrease in the insurance. Plus, we had a very competitive marketing through this RFP process, which both of those led to the reduction in our fees for next year.
Thanks, well done, thanks, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not necessarily directly to this. For the other employees who are not covered by this program, are there things built into their contracts for some other alternative?
Yes, Madam Chair and committee members, that's another great question. For the individuals that are not eligible through their collective bargaining agreement, I am aware that they do have the option to purchase long-term disability on a voluntary basis through their union.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. And again, you had mentioned that this is a 5-year contract.
Correct.
And so is there an escalator rate increase over those 5 years that we're locked into as well, or is it locked in for 5 years? I'm wanting to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, Madam Chair and committee members, that's a good question. The first 3 years are a fixed rate, and then there's a rate cap for years 4 and 5.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right then, thank you. Proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P013 with MetLife to provide long-term disability insurance for all eligible council employees in the amount not to exceed $2,298,256. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Barber, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lilligren. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you for bringing that good news forward to us and moving that forward, everybody. We are on to our last non-consent item, and this is item 2025-175. This is a same week item as well. It's Legistar Software System Contract 25M030. And we've got Mi Ching, our Senior Manager from Administration Services. So great to see you, Mi, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, council members. So this is a request for approval to procure a new legislative file management software system called Legistar for council-wide public meetings. So currently, the Met Council has about 16 meeting bodies that hold public meetings, and the mechanism to create the agendas, minutes, packets, and notify the public, it's a very manual process. And it utilizes Word templates as well as using the council's website platform, Kenticle. So imagine you're just doing web designing and linking materials to each item. And so my proposal is to invest in a sophisticated cloud-based software that stores all business files in one spot. And Legistar can pull from one file and from one original business file document to generate the minutes, agendas, packets. It has the ability to create ADA accessible agendas and minutes as well. So it's easily embedded into our AV system as well as our website. So no matter what platform we use, it's easily integrated. It also uses an encoder to support live streaming of our meetings, and it has captions and timestamps of each business item. And I think the last part is that you can search business items by keywords, business item numbers. It could do it by, I would say, departments or committees as well. So if you want to, search for when was the last time we had a contract with so-and-so vendor, you can just plop in those keywords and it'll pop out when the last council action was. And so this is a 5-year contract through an authorized, authorized software reseller called Carasoft, and we're using our cooperative agreement with the State of Texas Department of Information Resources cooperative contract. So, and in an amount not to exceed $768,000. So with that, I stand for any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yay, thank you. I will say, number one, our recording secretary support staff, they do yeoman's work. We know it's not easy, and if we can make all of their jobs a little easier, that is fantastic, because all the things that they do, they make us look good as community chairs, and they're so organized. If we can ease their load, it would be wonderful. But also, secondarily, they can search everything, go to a particular business item, and have timestamps. That is, it's like, I know trying to search our website, I'll remember we voted on something and try and figure out where it is and try and search it, and we can't find it, so we end up digging through minutes and stuff. But you can actually just search it, it will make everything so much easier. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, great. Any other Councilmember
I
Cedarberg?
have a question. Does the contract also include training?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
it just wasn't listed in there.
Yeah, sorry. In my business action, it includes the contract includes software licensing, professional implementation services, system integration, and annual maintenance fees. And so
Fancy word for
obviously,
training.
Yeah, with such a big, with an overhaul process,
Yes.
we're gonna do a soft launch. And so, making sure that on the back end, we're developing it correctly, the workflow is correct. Lori knows this, but, a lot of the recording secretaries, and even when we think about the Blue Line Extension Project office teams, they'll be involved in this process. So it's a cross collaboration, it's council-wide. So it has a huge impact. So that's why a lot of those staff will be involved in the work group leading up to the launch.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, Councilmember Jenkins.
I'm gonna follow up on your question. You beat me to the punch on the training, but specifically, will there be some component to also train the users, the public, on how it's different? How do I do a search by item number or stuff like that?
Yeah, so the software, the vendor itself, they do have some, I would say they have their system user guides out there, but we can also develop screenshots that are a lot easier to use versus the manufacturer user guides. So we could tweak some of those for internal and external audiences as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lillis?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, me, for this. This is really exciting, and my question is kind of building on Councilmember Jenkins' question, and that is about the interface with the public, right? And so, just as I was leaving the city of Minneapolis, they were implementing what do they call legislative information management system or something similar to this, a similar platform. And the public interface is really easy to use. I mean, it's a search bar essentially, and maybe some tabs. And so I'm just wondering what, beyond the training, what's the public interface of this look like?
So in my past job, I used the software, and so I think I did receive a lot of questions from the public, and I usually just walk them through of how to search for something and with screenshots, so step by step. I think understanding that the user, sometimes we are the expert users, but also being able to explain and walk, whether it's staff, council members, or the public, walk them step by step so that it's user-friendly in a way that they can understand as the user versus just saying, follow this user guide.
Sure, thanks. And I'm really interested in that. You had this experience just this last year going out and meeting with community within my district, and they were talking about some of the big projects. This is a community that was impacted by the Green Line construction, the Lake Street construction, the implementation of BRT and things. They were kind of in the sweet spot. And someone made the comment that, I went to the Met Council website and you guys just don't have any data out there. And I was like, what? We're a data generating machine, right? And so this was a tech savvy person, and so it kind of indicated to me that our interface wasn't as transparent or easy to use as maybe it could be. So I'm really interested to see how this new system makes it easier for the people that we serve to find what they're looking for.
And I'll just reflect on Councilmember, I have also looked for stuff I've done here and I can't find it, so that's bad. Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you. So this is the world I came from. I built training programs for software companies. One of the things I'd ask us to do if Granicus, if Granicus doesn't already have some type of a user training option, could we reach out to the local entities that are using it and ask them what was their experience rolling this out to the public? So, because I think internally, we'll have our training program and we'll all get up to speed, but to make it as quick and adaptable for the public as possible. The tools are there, we just have to work with Granicus to find them.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, Councilmember Jenkins, yes, I still have my contacts at the city of St. Paul and Ramsey County, so I come with a lot of resources that I use to develop to create user guides that are a lot easier to use, and so we have some of those resources at hand that we can always reach out to as well.
Yeah, and not to get too into the weeds, but when you first just go to the website, for people that are looking for something, are you looking for a button? Just to get them into whatever portal and then have it be as intuitive as possible, because we are very division driven and all of that, and not everybody understands it. Or it might sit over in a project office, but the piece you're looking for is in some other tangential spot. So, and I just want to commend you for your leadership on this, because I believe you drove this and you made it all come together, and with your experience and expertise, again, thank you for deciding to work at Met Council and bringing all of this because this is a game changer for our team, for the council, and then for the public. So I couldn't be more pleased to support this. You've done a great job. Any other questions? Councilmember Osman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing this very important system. I agree, Councilmember Littlegram. When you go to our website, sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for if you don't know how to look for. So this is very important to upgrade our system. Just my question is, how long is it gonna take to implement this system?
I don't know. So I've been working with IS and Rob from procurement, so we're, I think we're on the cusp of just signing a contract, and I think I'll be on vacation next month. So while I'm gone, we're doing some behind the scenes work, but my hope is that we could develop it fast enough that in Q4, use that time to do all the back end work. And hopefully, if we move diligently enough, that we could do a soft launch at the end of the year or like a full launch in the new year. So January, hopefully we can do a full launch in January.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to you and to Lori, who keeps track of us and me especially, and to there's a lot of manual work going into this now. I have some of that, and some of you also might have that in your day job, and it's awful because you have to be very systematized, but then that's how I do things, but somebody else in my organization doesn't even do it that way, and we're kind of reinventing the wheel. And God forbid you lose somebody in the company and it's there somewhere, or they did it somehow, but it was very manual and copy paste, and it's in a Word document or whatever, so this will be good, right? We should do this, right? Please. Okay, any other discussion? All right then, seeing none. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25N030 with Carasoft, an authorized software reseller on the State of Texas Department Information Resources Cooperative Contract, which is also a great thing. DIR-CPO-5131 for Granicus Legistar software system in an amount not to exceed $768,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jenkins, second by Barber. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously. So good job, everybody. Thanks for keeping the region moving forward. We do appreciate it. So we have information items to go over here, and one is 2026. We're already budget season, so we're going to be talking about our general purposes levy strategy and preliminary regional administration budget allocations. And Ned Smith is here, our Chief Financial Officer. Great to see you, and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. As the Chair mentioned, I'm Ned Smith. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Metropolitan Council. So we're here today to talk through, this is kind of our preview. So a couple of things we're going to walk through today. Our budget and timeline. This will set the stage for the entire budget process. A little bit about why we make a budget. Our levy strategy and our preliminary levy estimates, and then we'll talk through the actual regional administration budget. So just as a reminder, or as a new overview, we do start quite early. Frankly, the three hard workers behind me on the budget team started back in January and frankly in December. They take about 3 days after the budget is passed to breathe, and then we start it all over again. So they've been working since, and other staff members too on other divisions. So that's going all the way up until now, and then today is when I will present the preliminary budget and levies. Going on at the same time in the Environment Committee and the Transportation Committee and CDHRA, their finance teams are presenting their preliminary budgets as well. And then that'll come together as kind of a summit in early August, where on August 13th, where we will, each division and division head will present their operating budget presentation, which includes the operations, our pass-through, our debt service, and our OPEB, which is our other post-employment benefits. And then on August 27th, that's when the entire council will adopt the preliminary budget and the levies, and that's for the entire council. So again, you have an info item on August 13th, and then you'll actually vote on it on August 27th. That's for the operating portion. For the capital portion, which is where we look at our authorized projects, which are projects that we know we're going to do, and we also have funding secured for that. And that can be many years out, because projects sometimes take a long time. Planned is what we also think beyond that, that is not secured funding yet, And then our annual spending is what we plan to spend in the next 12 months on our the following calendar year on our capital program. So those will all get presented on October 8th, also as an information item. And then on October 22nd is when we will adopt the entire unified budget for public comment. So that's where we all say, yep, this is what we think the budget is. Then we put it out for public comment for the, I believe, until December, which I believe may be 90 days, but I'm just going to say until December. And then on December 3rd, and that gets a little asterisk also because that's not normally a budget, or that's not normally a council meeting week. That's the first Wednesday. We are pushing that back a week so that we're more aligned with other calendars, other tax entities, to make sure that people have a chance to view and comment and get kind of ahead of it there as opposed to coming in on the backside on the late end. So normally this would be the second meeting. This is going to be the first meeting. So we're going to flip the committee, the whole, the cow in that meeting. So that is the schedule. And I always like to remind everyone that, like gravity, budgets are not just a good idea, they're the law. So this is required by Minnesota state statute that the regional administrator recommends the budget and is approved by the council. It's also a better way to run a business, frankly. So in terms of, we'll start today with our levy strategy. And the strategy has a couple of things that are kind of givens. That's just, this is what it has to be. And then there's some strategy decisions that we as a council make. The transit and parks debt service needs, first of all, is set by the council based on the debt service activity that we know from the debt that we have issued, not only in the past year, but in many years prior to that. Any debt that's outstanding has basically a mortgage bill that comes due, and that's what determines that debt service. So we are able to set that. And then we also have a statutory fixed disparities levy. That's $5 million to the tax-based revitalization account. I'll talk for a little bit more what that is, but that's also fixed. That doesn't float. There's no, it's just that's statutorily required. Strategically then, our decisions is how do we maximize our other levy options, including the general purpose levy and our livable communities demonstration account levy. Those are also somewhat dictated by what's called the, it'll come to me in a minute. Thank you. Implicit price deflator. Wow, senior moment there. And I'm but that is set by the implicit price deflator, and then we add all that up and figure out. We generally try to get to a 2% increase, not just generally. We have historically always held it to a 2% increase total across all of our levy obligations. And we also have historically not levied for the highway right-of-way because we have sufficient reserves in there. And I would also point out that after August approval, the levy can go down, but it cannot go up. So we will shoot high, and frankly, we should try to stay there. So in terms of the grants programs that we have through the livable communities levies, we have $5 million annually for the regional fiscal disparities pool. That's mostly to clean up polluted land in the metropolitan area. And then we also have our livable communities demonstration account levy. And right now we're proposing a 15.543 million levy for 2026. We want to maximize that to the levy limit, and that levy limit is determined by the implicit price deflator, which is a somewhat fancy term for inflation. And it's not quite inflation because some things are in and some things aren't, but it generally follows inflation. And this year it's capped at about 2.4%. We also have our local housing incentive account. That is also a statutory required transfer. It does come out of the general purpose levy, but we have to set aside $1 million for that for local communities to improve their housing options. So in terms of the overall general purpose levy, the total is 19.79 million. This is our most flexible levy funding in terms of what we spend it on, which is just not very flexible in terms of what we can charge because it is limited by the implicit price deflator. But we primarily use this for our community development administration as well, so CD group, as well as statutory transfer to local housing that we just talked about. Overall, we'd like to point out, those of you who remember that I used to work in ES, and love to say when I was in ES, we love talking about how we're such a competitive deal. And so ES, of course, is 35% cheaper than its peer agencies. I would point out here that we're a great bargain relative to tax trends from our partners in cities, counties, and school districts. So this is what holding at 2% looks like versus what some of the others have experienced. For good reason. I'm a fan of taxation, so I'm just saying we are at the lower end of the tax trend. So where does this all?
Can I just
Yes,
ask one
ma'am.
quick question too? And as it relates to, you know, the implicit price deflator and projections, you know, and I just briefly wanna touch on, you know, price of goods is going up. There's reasons for that I won't get into, but we all hear it in the news every day that impacts the council. So, you know, we are capping out, but with reserves and other means, we're able to manage extra costs, I'm assuming within the budget for 2026, as we're, you know, having those extra taxes come our way. Is that a fair statement?
Madam Chair, say more about extra taxes.
So tariffs.
Oh, so yes, we are experiencing extra taxes, tariffs. However, those really have not hit the areas that are impacted or planned for through the levy.
Okay,
We're seeing those tariffs mostly in transit and ES.
yeah,
And those have separate funding models. So none of the dollars here will go to transit and ES other than for debt service
okay,
on
great,
transit.
okay, thank you.
So how we all roll up, there you can see the 19.79 million for general purpose for 26. That is in line with the 2.4% implicit price deflator. As we said earlier, we won't be charging the highway right away because it's sufficiently funded. And then we have our demonstration grant, which is also tied to the 2.4% implicit price deflator, and $5 million that's fixed for the tax revitalization. So that rolls us up to a total of 40 million there. That's based off of what's funded by the levy in terms of non-debt service, and then we jump down to our debt service. And we only pay two debt service here, which is Parks and Transit. ES pays its own debt service through its own operating budget. So Mr. Salmeyer will present that in a few weeks, and you'll see how their debt service is doing. So here you can see Parks went up a little bit. That's mostly reflected because we did a $9.7 million issue in 2025, a 5-year issue. So that is the jump there. And both the Parks and Transit reflect a slight slowdown from COVID. Our capital programs and our debt activity slowed down a little bit because we weren't buying things. For example, for buses, we weren't burning through buses as fast. We weren't putting the miles on them, so we didn't have to replace them as fast. So we've had some slightly lower bonding activity in the last 3 years, but now we're starting to see that pick back up. So in fact, in 2025, Transit issued 77.7 million 10-year debt for buses and whatnot. So you can see in that case, it still is not enough. We're still dropping a little bit, but you're gonna see that increase over time as our capital program ramps back up. So all of that gets us to a little bit of a under 2%. When you merge that with the 2.4% up above, we are tying out then at our historical, it's not really a policy, it's a preference, but it's a very firm preference. So we're only increasing by 2% yet again for 26.
And I just have to say, you know, and you all know this too, you meet with your local units of government, you might have served in the past, you know, I have a group of mayors that meet and they talk about what are the levies gonna be this year, and I mean, they really cringe when they even have to announce their own levies sometimes, cause it's just that way right now, and Met Council stays right around that too, and so I just, you know, that is a big deal, cause you know, we're a big government, and yet we really hold tight to that, and when I first got here, I'm like, will they really? And yeah, I'm in year 7 and we're still, so I just appreciate that because I think there could be tendencies to go beyond that, but we don't.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's the 3 guys behind me that make that happen. I'm grateful. So now we're gonna dig into the regional administration budget allocation. So this is so regional administration is kind of what some people call support services or central services. You could also call it headquarters. It's all of everything that Phil drives, mostly. And it's what you think with running a business. It's HR, it's legal, it's IT, it's finance, it's budget, it's treasury, it's OEO. Actually, I'll do a complete department list in a minute, but it's everything that we need to keep our divisions successful. So a couple of things, many things, are driving some of our increases and challenges this year. Most of them have been pretty consistent over time, but they are still things that we need to keep in account, and apparently a ghost has joined the room. First is our cybersecurity protection. That's an ongoing program where we're beefing that up as the threats increase. That's driving some of our increased costs, as well as our Microsoft contracts. Some just the increase in the overall, some of it's we're getting more services from Microsoft. We're transitioning more and more of our communications needs and contract other needs to their products, as well as moving to the Azure, which is their cloud service. So that's also driving some increases there. We are also supporting transit growth in technology, recruiting and retention, real estate procurement. So with the 3/4 cent sales tax, transit has been given a mandate to grow and improve its service. And so this is all of the backup support that you need to make that happen. It's not just transit, we're helping them. We see this especially in technology, all those digital signs that you see, as well as in human resources. For all, not just recruiting, but then all those people are here, how do we retain them? How do we maintain their benefits? How do we keep them gainfully employed? So that, as well as human resources increase in compensation analysis and benefits. So we are taking a deliberate focus on, are we compensating our folks fairly, and how does it compare to the rest of the region, both internally and externally. Internally, are we aligned across divisions and across specialties, and then externally, are we competitive with other employers in the region, or other transportation, or other wastewater, or other housing across the country. We're also redesigning and revamping our office space. We have some changes coming to our in-office minimums. We're going to have anyone who supervises folks will need to be in office 3 days a week. Many of them are not. And once you're in 3 days a week, you get a dedicated cube. So we need to understand what is the increased office requirement for that, as well as just the natural growth. You're going to see that we're adding I believe it's 25 folks, between 25 to 26 in RA, and those folks need to sit somewhere. So there's some work there. Transition and consulting from permanent consulting to permanent employment. We have a lot of consultants on hand right now to fill in the gaps. As those roll off, some will stay, and we'll also need to hire full-time FTEs to fill those gaps and also receive increased support. We're speaking that especially in IS and HR. And then we'll increase support for internal audit and control functions. So if you ask anyone, our audit team is overworked and still delivering quite well, but there's more that not only that they can be doing, but there's also more they should be doing. And so there's some increased support for them, as well as internal control functions where we're getting some help to help us understand our internal controls, not just in finance, but across the council. We're also increasing our support for community engagement and external relations. Some of that's just what the market is doing for some of our federal support. And then a very important strategy or project is on our continued development and support of our culture efforts. So this is with employee strategies. In fact, we have an offsite tomorrow. I think everyone should come if you're free. Ask me about it. But that's some great work we're doing, and we're seeing some great improvements there, and we look forward to seeing those continue. So in terms of where the money goes, use by department is pretty evenly spread. Well, depends on how you define it. So information services is, of course, information services. Financial services is finance, treasury, and budget. Business services is HR, electronic content management, real estate, central services, procurement, business continuity, and risk management. And then admin is the chair, intergovernment government affairs, regional administration, community relations, general counsel, OEO, audit, and communications. So that's how it breaks out in terms of the departments. In terms of what are we paying for, most of that is our people. And in fact, you could argue that 90% of that is people, because the contracted services is mostly people as well. So that is our biggest asset in RA. In terms of other, the biggest drivers there is rent. and utilities specifically voice data, that makes almost almost half of that. And the rest is materials and supplies, and a couple of other items. So that is what's driving that's where the money goes. And then in terms of how do we pay for it, so just a reminder, part of the reason we can keep our levy at 2% is because these parts of the business are allocated out to the businesses. So transit pays a portion, I'm not on that slide yet. Sorry. So here's the breakdown by line item in terms of, I just explained to you what they were, and now here's how they've changed. Salaries is our biggest, or one of our biggest growth rates. Salaries and benefits at 13.7. There's really three drivers behind that. There's the increased FTEs, there's the contract raises that were just negotiated, and then also increases in medical expense. Contracted services, this is mostly in HR and IS as we continue to fill the gaps as we try to keep getting to 100% capacity for hiring. And a lot of this also, by the way, is a Q2 carryover. I don't know if you might remember, we did a second quarter amendment in 2025 that increased a lot of our contract services, especially in IS, but that wasn't just for 2025, so that carried over into 2026. And then the biggest chunk you can see is IT maintenance, and that's really a lot of the work that we just talked about with cybersecurity, with moving to Azure, with other increased Microsoft products. Other dropped a little bit. That's kind of that's mostly driven by Metro Transit computer refresh, and that's going to go up and down depending on how many are scheduled to be updated that year. So that's generally what's driving the drop now, but I think over time you're going to see that to be a little bit flat, if not slightly growing. Sorry, now here's how we pay for it, which is through allocating it out to the various divisions. Based on, there's a couple of metrics we use. Some of it's based on headcount, like HR is mostly based on headcount, some project work. IS is primarily based on the equipment that you have, how many laptops do you have. And legal is kind of based on where's the work done. Procurement is based on where you're procuring things, what are the contracts you're running through. Finance is a little bit based on budget and a little bit based on the accounts payable, how many bills did you pay. So it's pretty detailed in terms of how we allocate these charges out to the divisions. And you can see there's some pretty big jumps for 2026. Overall, we're at 17.5%. After last year was around 20% increase as well for RA, I do think we're gonna level off. We've done a little bit of a course correct and get caught up, and I think we'll see that drop down. I will not be at inflation, but I do think it'll be more in the low double digits. And that's a goal.
And I just would say too, with all of the reorganization and work that we're doing and aligning, HR resources into all of the divisions for all of the, hiring and retention. And I mean, I can only imagine too, and through the culture work, we're gonna be much more efficient, hopefully streamlined, and people, I will use, people in the right seats on the bus. So that is a pun that I intended. So, it's going up, but we're hiring, we have to hire people, we're doing more things, and yet at the same time, we're shifting culture, we're becoming more efficient, we've had some really important leadership changes, so I think this is money well spent, because I think the outputs of it are gonna be really beneficial to the council as an organization and to the region and our services.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. And then this is an overview of our headcount growth. This is also, so you can see overall, we have 481 and a quarter. I'll just leave that there. But we do have people who are on part-time or half-time, so it's not, some of this really short. But we are growing by 25 headcount in 26. That's a little misleading because that implies that we added, that's still less than 5%. So I feel good that that's a modest growth rate. However, for 2026, like when I said, hey, what do you want for 2026? It's only 7.5. So the other 18 are from our Q1 special amendment. You might remember we added 9 FTEs in HR, mostly to help with transit recruiting. And then we added 3 in finance to help with general ledger and budget. And then the Q2 amendment, we added 4 in HR to mostly around support for the compensation work, and then 2 in procurement to just deal with the increased flow. So 18 of those 25 that you see there have already been approved. So we're really only coming here today to point out that 7.5 are added on top of that. And those are coming from more in HR, 1/2 in finance, and 2 in audit, as I discussed earlier.
Great.
So that's the I think I've gone quite long, I apologize, but.
Thanks.
Any
And
questions?
while you're at it, if you 3 gentlemen would just step up and
Yes.
introduce yourself so we can properly thank you and, you know, all your fans and family and friends and.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm Mike Whitaker, I'm a principal financial analyst within the budget department.
Thank you,
Don Walgrew, program manager here in Flathead.
thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm Stuart Mullen, I'm the
Nice
budget
Stuart.
director.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it's teamwork, and the fact that we've got the best and the brightest here at the council is pretty reassuring, so thank you for your hard work. Yeah, any questions? Councilmember Jenkins.
Yeah, if you can go back one slide. Explain to me vacancy factor. I had no idea what that was.
Yes, it's a thing that makes me cringe, but it's incredibly necessary. So a vacancy factor is acknowledging that if you plan for 481 people, you will never have 481 people in the building. So you're understanding there are always gonna be someone retires and it takes you 6 months to fill it. And so what we don't wanna do is plan for 481 people, charge our customers for 481 people, because they build their budget to this, and ES actually turns around and directly charges their wholesale customers, and then not spend it. So it's a tool that we use. It makes me cringe because you're planning a negative number, and that's very hard to achieve a negative number in your operations.
No, I understand. I've worked with workforce management. We had a different term, but I understand completely. It's what I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Good question. Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right, then, this is an information item, so we will continue through the process as the whole council and council chairs will be receiving more information, and it'll come back according to the schedule that you gave us. So thanks to the team. Thank you for being here, Ned, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And so now we are at the point in our agenda where we will be going into private session, and I think I have a council member, Cedarburg, here, who will be reading a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that this meeting also be closed to the public pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 13B.05, subdivision 3B, and applicable case law, so the committee can discuss with our legal counsel in a confidential setting attorney-client privilege matters.
Thank you, Councilmember Cedarburg. Thank you, Councilmember Lilligren. That was seconded. I'm taking notes for Lori right now. I just want to mention too that a public body by majority vote in a public meeting may decide to hold a closed session under section 13D.05 subdivision 3B, as was noted, of the Minnesota open meeting law to discuss attorney-client privilege matters. Discussing these litigation matters in a confidential setting will permit the council to engage in candid discussions and resolve these matters in a way that benefits the council and the public. Discussions during the closed session portion of the meeting to discuss attorney-client matters will be confined to the pending litigation matters only listed in the committee agenda. And with that, we've had our motion and a second, so let's take a vote to close the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no, and that passes unanimously. So we'll be working on closing the meeting. I do wanna just mention that the public who are watching today, and for the record that the committee will adjourn immediately after the discussion of this information item, and that the committee will not have any discussions or conduct business on any other information once this item is complete. So for the record, please note that this meeting was closed to the public at 3:25 p.m. on July 23rd, 2025. And then if we just hang in there, we'll get the notification from Greg in the back.